welcome back to Bachelor Buzz, the best place to come for recaps on your favorite show and the latest in Bachelor Nation news. We're your hosts, Arena
and Julia, and we're very excited for you to join us. We had to do this breaking news update because obviously there's been a big development in our golden couple. Gerry and Theresa have called it quits.
Yeah.
So sad. Man, we really hoped that they would be. I think we were just talking about like successful couples last episode.
We were.
We dropped them in there, but no, it's so sad. But they are dissolving their marriage.
Yes, which I liked what you said, Julia, in your live, where you said that's the new age way to put it.
Really interesting.
They're getting divorced, people.
Divorce. They're like dissolved, uncoupling. You know, there's all these different terms, but let's just call it what it is. You're getting divorced after 3 months. 3 months.
Which is the shortest amount of time a bachelor couple has been married in the history of this franchise. So not only did they make history in terms of being the first golden couple and having a golden wedding, which as you guys may remember was back in January 5th. It was a live wedding on a Thursday, same time slot that they had when the show was on last fall. And
if you want a recap, we did a recap.
We did.
Go on back to
it was one of our first episodes, if not our first.
Yeah, it was like our first one. First like recap episode.
Yeah.
But anyways, continue right now.
Yes.
Remind you guys that we
no
do
worries,
have
but
that.
Thank you. Yes, you guys can find that on Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen, YouTube, everything. So, and Patreon. But so not only did they make history with that, and it was the first bachelor wedding in a long time, many, many years, everyone felt like, and I felt like too, this was going to work, especially because of their age. Honestly, I felt like they were probably like, hey, you know what? Let's make it work. Let's see how it goes, because why not?
Yeah.
And
like you don't expect people later on in life who are, filled with wisdom and experience to I don't know, maybe jump the gun on something like this or not really make the right choices in love. I don't know. We just expected more.
Well,
but it's a lesson. I think anyone could have this difficulty, I guess.
Yeah, like anyone can have issues in the relationship or not be able to overcome it, and maybe they're just romantics. And I think the show also really makes it so ideal to fall in love and to have this very much fantasy and just love and joy, and then you get out of that after all these amazing dates and trips and just this time together. You get out of that and you get into the real world, and then you have to figure out real life situations. And I feel like some people were saying like, why didn't they talk about this beforehand? But I feel like they probably did, because Theresa, she is such sound of mind and professional that I feel like she definitely, if he didn't, because like you said, Gerry's got his head in the clouds type of thing.
A little, yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
He's very idealistic, and I don't think he,
nothing wrong with that.
I don't know if he really thought through it when she told him, listen, I'm still working. My family is in New Jersey. I don't know what she said as far as like whether or not she would move at the fantasy suite, but like they need to have had a plan,
Yeah, and stuck to it.
Sounds like they just did not come up with a plan. They didn't have like an end point. And like in any long distance relationship, having been in some in my past before I met my husband, like unless there's an end point that you both are working towards and it's very clear, a light at the end of the tunnel, if you will, like what's the point of a long distance relationship? And I feel like these people got married without that end point. And now they're like, oh, we still can't find it,
Yeah.
It's sad.
I agree for sure. Like, I feel like they definitely talked about it and thought about it. But when it came down to it, they did not really want to make it work, because honestly, and this is no knock to them, like I said, hey, I love Theresa. I grew to really like her more and more as we got to learn more about her. She's definitely an independent woman who's strong and handles her business, and Gerry seems like a nice guy. Of course, he was built up as this great guy, but I feel like maybe when it came down to it, were they really willing both of them to come together and make that decision, like you said, the end point, but like come together and make the decision that, okay, well, this is where we're going to live. This is
Pull
how
the
it's going to
trigger.
be, at least for the
Yeah.
next 5 years. And then, like he's retired already and Teresa's like 70, I think. So she said in an interview, she's not going to work till she's 80, but right now she wants to keep working. So maybe in 5 years she will be ready to retire. And then they
Yeah.
can think about where are they going to live. But just to give a little background too, guys, for those who are not as familiar with the Golden Couple, as you know, Gerry Turner was the first Golden Bachelor. He is from Indiana. He lost his wife in
Widow.
2017, I believe. Yeah, he's a widow. He has this beautiful lake house in Indiana that he bought with his wife just before she passed away suddenly. And he was looking for love, and so he was brought on as this first Golden Bachelor. And he had an amazing cast of women. I think it was about 22 women, ranging in age from like 60 to 75. And Theresa was the one who I think from the beginning, a lot of people saw that she had a connection with him. And part of that
Yeah.
was the fact that she is a widow. And they both connected on the fact that they lost their spouses, who they both been with since they were like in high school, I
Yeah,
think.
high school sweethearts. So
Yeah.
they connected so much on that
Mhm.
like almost trauma and also the
Yes.
like, experience they've had with love.
Yes.
So it made a lot of sense that he chose her in the end, and also like
Yeah.
just having big families and wanting and caring so much about family. And I
Mhm.
think they both liked that the other had that long-term relationship because it's
Mhm.
like, oh, like so you know how to be a loving partner for many years.
Yes.
So it made sense why he chose her. Although
Yeah.
there was the drama again, like if you need a refresher,
Yeah.
the details were definitely in our last episode, but he did kind of make a last minute decision. It felt like he was
Felt
going for
like it.
Leslie, the runner up,
Mhm.
but then the same night as the fantasy suites or the final date. What
It
would we
was the
say?
final, well, he
The
said at the
final date for
fantasy suite
Leslie.
he knew
Uh-huh.
it was going to be Teresa, but yeah, the final date, he
Yeah.
just told Leslie, it's not
But
you.
yeah, it's someone else. Guess
Yeah.
who? But yeah, so they were really, it seemed like they were solid. He seemed
Mhm.
sure,
Yeah.
you know. And then they got married on TV,
Yeah.
like Bachelor franchise. I think they were just so excited about like all the viewers and like the how it really did rejuvenate the franchise. It pulled in a lot more different, viewers and everything.
Yeah.
So they probably were really excited to be able to display the love and kind of squeeze it for all it's worth
Hmm.
by doing the golden wedding.
Yeah.
And do we think they maybe did that too soon? Did they push it on too fast?
Yeah, we'll never know, unfortunately, whether it was too soon or, I mean, it was all lovely and amazing at the time. It was all like, I think we all were just super like excited or happy, and I thought they were going to make it. And it was just beautiful. And just watching the Golden Wedding, too, like you said, they hadn't had a wedding on Bachelor franchise on TV, televised, in so long. And there were so many Bachelor alum there, people
Hmm.
who had been on The Bachelor years ago, like, from the original Bachelorette season, and having like people successful couples like that, and so many more recent Bachelor couples as well. And it just was such a fun time to see on TV and see all the social media after that. But when it comes down to it, it really isn't about that. It's about the relationship, when all these relationships leave the show, that if they're able to sustain them. And so, yeah, we just, we watched the Good Morning America interview. There was one later on Nightline with Juju Chang as well. And there's been other coverage of this, but essentially, they said that they're still in love, and Gerry seemed adamant about that in the interview. And that they realized after several conversations that, they just have such love for their families, and that they just couldn't come to a decision on where they were going to live because they still weren't living together after all this time. And it just, I think, yeah, a big part of that was where they were living, and Teresa still working. And
Yeah.
Gerry was very much like, I'm retired. I'm here to have fun. Yeah, like, I'm here to like,
Yeah, I feel like that is definitely it, but I just feel like there must have been something else. Like maybe they realized they are
weren't
better
as
off as
into each other.
friends, or
Yeah.
like maybe there's something missing, or maybe there was like some personal drama that we have no idea about. Because like another weird thing, and I just remembered to bring this up, but like they were gifted an Italian honeymoon
Yeah, that's
by the
right.
producers.
Yeah.
They didn't go on the
Yeah.
honeymoon, did
Didn't go.
they? So
No.
like, wow. I mean, that you'd think at least they'd be like, let's go on the
I
honeymoon
know.
and then divorce. Like,
Yeah. But they couldn't even do
that's
that.
weird. That like they
Yeah.
didn't even make sure they did that. So it's like you don't want to go on it. Like, I mean, I love like my husband obviously, but like I would go to Italy with a lot of people. Like I would go with my
Just to go.
coworker if I had to go. You know, if I got
Yeah.
a free trip
Free
to and
trip.
they said you and your boss go, I'll be like, all right, we're gonna have a good time.
Okay.
Like, you
Yeah.
make the fun that you can, even if they got separate hotel rooms or something,
Mhm.
like it's odd that they wouldn't even take
Didn't
advantage of
go.
that. So
Mhm.
it just tells me that maybe there's something going on. And like, there could be other things that unfold, and we'll just make sure to update you guys when we find out. But
Yes.
as far as now, there's so much speculation, but I
Yeah.
just feel like there were some signs
Mhm.
that maybe there was trouble in paradise, in golden paradise.
Yes, no, definitely. There must be more to it, like you said, and we'll definitely hear more about this stuff coming out because that's how it always is, right?
Mhm.
Whenever a celebrity couple or celebrities, period, no matter what level they're on, when things
Yeah.
go down, more information is always revealed as time goes on. And like you said, we will definitely be reporting on that, guys, right here in Bachelor Buzz. But I feel like aside from that, we just really wanted to do this quick update for you guys, and especially for those who maybe didn't watch the Golden Bachelor season. But we just wanted to get it out there and, just talk about it a little bit. But did
Yeah.
we want to add anything else, Julia? I think it's
Um,
covered.
I mean, I think everything, I think just kind of like reiterating what we learned from the Good Morning America interview. They
Mhm.
said they're still in love. They still have love for each other. They
Mhm.
were holding hands. Like
Yeah.
it's a lot of mixed messages
Yes.
from these two. So it's like, I'm just so
Thank you.
curious to see
Yeah.
what we will find out.
Yeah.
I really hope it was nothing shady, like infidelity or
I
anything
hope
like
not.
that.
Yeah.
I also hope that they both take time to heal. It'd be really hard to watch maybe Gerry like end up with some other girl.
From the
Because
show or just in
I don't,
general?
just in general, like
Yeah.
I hope that it's not because they aren't in love.
Well,
Oh,
like
it's so odd. I don't know.
interview when Juju was like, "You guys still looking for love?" And Teresa was like, "Oh yes," and he was like, "Oh yeah," like he was so,
They
I'm not
seem
knocking Gary,
so, yeah, but
not
like,
knocking, but he was so
yeah,
enthusiastic about that. I felt like compared to the way
like
Teresa.
holding hands with her.
Yes.
Insane.
And we did also forget, just to remind you guys too, that there was that Hollywood Reporter article that came out at the end of his season, which
Hmm.
really, was about basically saying that he wasn't really a restaurateur, that he really had relationships since his wife passed away,
Little
a
sketchy.
little, it seemed
Yeah.
sketchy, but then again, you have to think like the Bachelor franchise, they knew all this because they do
They
their due
want to make
diligence.
him look good.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they were like, Gary, don't talk about it. We're just going to say this that we're not going to mention your burger joint that you sold in 1985. We're not going to talk about the relationships, the woman living in your house since your wife passed away.
Yeah.
We're just going to say you're a widower with two amazing daughters and grandchildren, and that's what we're going to focus on.
Yep.
So I don't blame him for that, but they painted him in a certain way as they always do, right?
They
It's all
do.
about the edit and what
Yeah.
they say.
But what they
But
need to learn is that the more they push this like ideal to the viewers and to all of us, like the
mhm,
less realistic and like less potential these
yeah,
couples have,
yeah, yeah, and the less,
Like,
yeah, like,
I mean, they were pushing Daisy. Imagine if Joey chose Daisy because of pressure from the producers. And
mhm,
then now, they would have broken up by now and he'd be with Kelsey.
mhm,
It's like, I don't know. They're too focused on the story. I mean, they need
yeah,
to let these people like
be them,
really be
yeah,
themselves and like
just be themselves,
take it or leave it. I
yeah,
also just really think that the franchise needs to have more like one on one deep conversation topics for the lead and the final three or four ladies,
Yeah.
like and or men,
Yeah.
they really need to structure bachelor experience to like find people who can really live and work together in the future.
Yeah.
It's like it's not all rainbows and butterflies.
Exactly. And like what you were saying, like you mentioned, like even doing like an activity, like how cool would that be? And I know it wouldn't be as entertaining everyone, but like what if there was like a financial planning activity, but not where you get too
Totally.
detailed. Like we as the public
Yeah.
don't need to know their finances, but
Yeah.
more in a way of, oh, so we sat down and we talked about it and they sit down with someone who's maybe like a
Or like
relationship
develop a 5-year
expert.
plan. Yeah.
Yes, just to
That would be
sit down
so
and talk with them, and
cool.
then they're like, "Oh, like that would be interesting." And we don't have to see everything, but maybe we just see part of it, and then
Yeah.
maybe that would really help because I know they talk about in fantasy suites, but how much it also depends on the
It's
people
up
how
to
much they talk
them.
about it, and it's their first time
Yeah.
away from cameras. We know there's a lot of physical
Other
connection.
things they do.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh.
so here's my Married at First Sight Australia plug. I love that show, and only the Australia version, not Married at First Sight America. That can stay in America,
Yeah.
out of my TV. But Australia and UK, they have a lot more like interaction between the couples and the expert. There's 3 experts, relationship experts. Anyways, so I'm not going to get into it now. I do want to do an episode
Yeah.
of like talking about it.
We
But
will.
anyways, one thing that they do with the couples who are married at first sight, so they struggle, they need help. They're a new couple, kind of like how it is towards the end of the Bachelor season. Basically, what they do, they have one activity where they rank certain things like money, sex, travel, children, like house, I don't know, things like that, where they have to rank it in order of importance to them. And then they compare. So maybe that would be something that could have helped Gerry and Theresa. Like, okay, well, travel's like number one to me. Well, work is number one to me. Okay, next
Mhm.
one is like, money. And this one's children. Who knows what it would have been? But like,
Yeah.
I just wish they had something like that they had the leads do,
Yes.
because it really gets deep into these people's like lives,
Mhm.
and it's like, what are you really looking for? So I think
Yeah.
that's,
That
something I
would
would
be
like to.
so good if they had that, like you're saying, and it
Yeah.
would really make them think if they hadn't really thought about it, make them
Yeah.
think about, well, what's your plan? Because I'll even say real quick, like with Joey's season and Lexi, where she was
Lexi.
very much like,
Yes.
this is
Love
my
her
more,
for doing that.
yeah,
More women should do that, and men.
and he hadn't thought about it. He literally, even though he's on this show, he didn't
Yeah.
really think to that point, and I
Like,
think that
how
was
long
really
do I want to be
good.
engaged?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's a good question, especially for women, especially on his season. He had women a little older than him. They're not old, elderly, look, okay? But he's 28, almost 29, and these women are early 30s. Not a
Yeah.
big deal. But there are people that have a timeline, and she obviously had a timeline also because of her health concerns and everything. So it totally made sense, and it forced him to think about it. And I think, like you're saying, those activities would force them to think about it and not,
Yeah.
sorry, waste any time for
I
anyone,
know.
themselves or the person they want to choose. And maybe that would help them also make the decision of who they're going to
Yeah.
end up with. So, yeah, just, and we're not experts, guys, but like this is just kind of what we observe and what
This
we
is our
see. And
reaction. Yeah.
yeah, so
But
it's
in the
whatever.
end, like, I just hope that they both, heal,
Yes,
and like maybe they do find love outside of
I
Bachelor
hope so.
franchise.
Yeah.
I definitely, I'm so curious to see why and like what happens next. So,
Mhm.
we'll keep you guys posted what we find out.
Yes, we will, guys. But thank you so much for joining us for Bachelor Buzz on this special news update.
Update. Yep. We
Update.
had
I
to.
feel like I need the scrolling, like,
I know. We should
I
definitely find that. We're
do
gonna
that.
add that to our
Um,
our uh our Instagram thing.
yeah,
All right.
yeah. But yeah, thanks
Well,
so
thanks
guys
for joining us,
for joining
guys.
us, and we'll see you later.
All right. Bye.